We're happy to have you here. So you gave a very forceful speech at the United Nations. You said that Vladimir Putin is making a new mistake following his announcement that he's going to mobilize hundreds of thousands of new Russian troops. You said he has made Russia more and more isolated because of his commitment to a war that you said was illegal and illegitimate. You are perhaps the Western leader who has had more time talking with Putin one-on-one than any other. Why do you think he's doing this, and can he be talked out of it?
Look, it's hard to me to give an explanation. I think this is not the most rational decision, for sure. When he decided to launch his war, the 24th of February, I think he made a first mistake, a huge one. And he decided to put Russia in a situation, indeed, to be the new imperial country and to launch a colonial war. During the past few months, I have to say that all of us were very impressed by the reaction and the resistance of Ukrainian people. We helped them from a military point of view, humanitarian point of view, economic point of view, but they did resist. And I think they did, and they do much better than a lot of people thought a few months ago. Mm-hmm. Now, I think after the counteroffensive, Vladimir Putin is much more under pressure. And after especially some clear statements made by a lot of leaders, not just Western leaders. A few months ago, Vladimir Putin conveys a message: I was aggressed by NATO. They triggered the situation, and I just reacted. Now, it's clear for everybody that the leader who decided to go to war, the leader who decided to escalate, is President Putin. And I have no rational explanation. I think this is a series of resentment. This is a strategy of hegemony in the region. And I would say this is a post-COVID-19 consequence. Isolation.
Because he's been so isolated?
I think so. I think so.
Do you think the countless hours that you have spent reaching out to him, talking to him, trying to talk him out of doing this, attempting diplomacy, do you think that has been helpful or will be helpful?
We will know that at the end of the day. I'm sure that during years and years, especially with Chancellor Merkel, we spent a lot of time in what we call the Normandy format to speak with President Poroshenko and afterwards President Zelensky, President Putin, and both of us. Because we were convinced with Chancellor Merkel that spending all this time to try to implement the Minsk agreement signed in 2014 was the best way to avoid an escalation. I think what we got in 2019 was very positive for Ukraine and was definitely a progress towards peace. But as I told you, post-COVID-19, there was a totally new situation. So he had a window of opportunity, and he decided to completely break the linearity of this situation and go to the war. I do believe that all the discussions we had were useful. Second, I think in his own logic, I'm not saying this is an explanation or I don't give any excuse, but we have to take into consideration that there is a lot of resentment on the Russian side. He has a feeling that post-1990, we didn't respect him properly. I think it's not a reason to do what he did.
But it's his mindset.
It's his mindset. So we have to understand that, because it's always more efficient to be respected and to try to find a way forward when you have this discussion. Third, I think it's useful because, for instance, thanks to this dialogue, we managed to organize this mission with the international agency to go to the nuclear plant of Zaporizhzhia, to have an independent mission. And we are, I hope, finalizing a very important agreement to protect this nuclear plant and to go towards demilitarization, but at least to be sure that there is no more weapons in this area. I want to insist on that. Mm-hmm. We have to avoid, obviously, Russia winning this war. We have to help Ukraine to be free and to get the full control of its territory. But at a point of time...
Does that include Crimea?
It will be Ukraine to decide that. The Ukrainians and the Russians will have to go at the table to negotiate.
So
it will be the end of the stuff.
President Biden said at the UN that Russia isn't just attacking Ukraine. Russia is attacking the United Nations Charter.
Yeah.
Because you have here in the United Nations Security Council a country, Russia, that has committed human rights abuses and potential war crimes, invaded a sovereign nation, and on and on. Is Russia proving that the UN is not worth the building it's in because the UN can't stop this?
No, I don't think so, because nobody proposed an alternative order or more efficient one. I think
You can understand why people are skeptical of the UN, though, when you have Russia on the Security Council.
But for sure, this is true, but this is how our world functions. I mean, we are in favor of a reform of the Security Council to especially have a better representativity of the African continent and some emerging countries. But I do believe that our responsibility is to make this international order functioning. But we have to preserve our values and the Charter. Everybody is at stake because we are speaking about respect of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And it's exactly why we built this charter post-World War II and after the colonization era. And I think defending this principle is not just defending Ukraine, it's defending all the countries and the possibility of peace in this world. During the past few months, you had a Russian narrative, and they wanted to create a situation, the West versus the rest. This is a big danger. This divide is a big danger.
You have said that China and India and some other countries are siding with this Russian imperialism through their complicity by not standing against Russia's aggression of Ukraine. And are you seeing any indication that China, India, some of these countries in the African world, some of these countries in the Middle East, are seeing your argument, are hearing President Biden's argument that the world has to align with democracy and republics and against authoritarian governments? Is there any hope?
I do believe there is hope. I think we have to be very respectful. I think we have to avoid lecturing people and saying we are on the good side of the story. I think if we have a lot of respect, we try to understand where they stand, what they do believe in, and what their feelings are, we can convince them. These guys are different from us, but all together, being respectful, we can work because what is at stake is global order. Peace, climate change, food security, all these things could be fixed if we have cooperation between the US, Europe, China, India, Asia and Pacific, Africa and LATAM.
So your ally, the United States ally, Germany, has been criticized a lot because of its dependence on fuel from Russia. People have said Germany is helping to fund the war. Now, Germany just announced it's going to nationalize a gas importer. Is this enough? Do they need to do more?
I mean, it's very unfair to blame somebody because all the industrial model was not adapted to war nobody predicted a few months ago. And I think everything in our way to function was based, let's be lucid together, on the fact that trade, cooperations, integrations of value chains was probably the best way to prevent any conflict. It was, the main rationale of the past decade. It's true, what Europe has to adapt to is that we were based on a model, and Germany more than France because we have nuclear power, but we are in perfect solidarity. We have to shift from a model where we thought cooperating with everybody was the best way to prevent war to a world where you have to build more autonomy and independence on some issues.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm a strong believer of this European sovereignty. In technology, in energy, for digital space, and the key element like chips, and for our defense, we can have cooperations. We have allies.
But you need independence on energy.
We have to be much more independent at a continental level.